Shout out to my dog Kato. Rest in peace, baby.
DMX's friend, Rudy Rangel Jr., aka King Kato, liked to keep his hair short. So Kato, a leader of the Latin Kings, one of Chicago's biggest street gangs, had been going several times a month to Nationwide Cuts, a barbershop operating out of a trailer near Roosevelt and Sacramento on the west side. On June 4, 2003, Kato was in the barber's chair, his back to the open door. Game 1 of the NBA Finals between the San Antonio Spurs and New Jersey Nets, on the TV. Outside, a 21-year-old, recently paroled ex-con, and member of the Four Corner Hustler Vice Lords named Donald Squeaky Simmons, walked through the alley to the shop. A red, white and blue Nets cap on his head, and a pistol at his waist. Two men were sitting on the stairs to the barbershop waiting to get in when Simmons walked up. "Let me get by," Simmons told them. A few moments later, Kato was lying on the floor fighting for his life. Labar Brahman Span, leader of the Four Corner Hustlers, ordered the hit ending his life, but why? Kato had married someone from his neighborhood, who he had planned to spend his life with, Valerie Gaitan, daughter of a Chicago cop. He had a tattoo on his chest for her, "Destined forever, my queen, Valerie." Soon after Kato's killing though, Valerie hooked up with Margarito Flores. Before going into federal protective custody, they spent time along with Margarito's twin brother, Pedro, and his wife at Joaquin El Chapo Guzman's cartel fortress in Mexico, which she wrote about in the 2017 book, Cartel Wives. Today, the Cartoon News Network is proud to present the first part of our inside look into the Four Corner Hustlers, Labar Brahman Span, and the lives of the Flores Twins in NARCOS Chicago, killing Kato.
Praying for all my friends, things I do for my friends. We miss you, hey, okay.
Born on Thanksgiving Day 1972, Kato grew up in LeClaire Courts on the southwest side, but ended up traveling in lofty circles in two worlds, crime and rap music. As a kid, he was friends with Pedro Flores and Margarito Flores, twin brothers from Little Village, who grew up to be two of the biggest drug traffickers in the country before they got caught, and agreed to help the Justice Department build the case that led to the arrest of Mexico drug kingpin, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. At 17, Kato pleaded guilty to possession of a controlled substance, and got a year's probation. In 1993, he was convicted of attempted murder, aggravated battery with a firearm, and armed violence. So, he got 7 years in prison for doing some dumb shit. Kato, who traveled with a bodyguard, liked flashy jewelry. In the spring of 2003, he drove to Lawrence's Fish and Shrimp at Cermak and Canal to meet John, a Latin king who'd told him he'd sell him a stolen, diamond-laden, Frank Muller watch, worth $125,000 for $25,000. Of course, Kato bought it. Martise Nunnery, a member of the unknown Vice Lords, told authorities John told him about selling a watch to Kato, and that he'd seen him wearing it, a diamond bracelet, and a platinum necklace with a pendant. Nunnery figured the jewelry was worth at least $240,000. In May 2003, Nunnery got in touch with a guy named Marcus Ware, who hung around the barbershop at Roosevelt in Sacramento, and had 2 drug convictions, and 1 weapons charge. The next time he saw Kato at the barbershop, Nunnery told Ware, "Call him." Nunnery wanted to talk about the music business. Ware said Nunnery told him he'd pay him $1,500 to $2,000. Ware knew that Nunnery planned on robbing Kato and stealing more from him than just a few pieces of expensive jewelry. In trial testimony, Ware said Nunnery told him he was intending to kill Kato because Nunnery was going to get $190,000 and 15 kilos of cocaine. Nunnery reached out to Labar Brahman Span, feared leader of the brutal Four Corner Hustlers, which claimed large swaths of the West Side.
West Side.
In June 1997, at 18, Span was charged with murder and aggravated discharge of a firearm but found not guilty, though his 2 co-defendants were convicted, and each got 60-year prison sentences. In 2008, Brahman Span also beat the murder charge for killing Kato, while his co-defendants, including Martise Nunnery, were convicted and served decades behind bars. In 2019, Martise Nunnery testified against Brahman during the Four Corner Hustlers RICO trial. Please smash that like button and subscribe to check out more videos from us like where we give a full breakdown of Nunnery's testimony, which provides a first-hand account about the plot to kill Kato. At first, authorities said the shooting resulted from an attempted jewel robbery. Evidence revealed in court, and testimony from eyewitnesses, however, suggest another possible motive. The murder was a contract for hire hit ordered after Kato stole 150 kilos of cocaine. Nunnery had known Bro Man just a few months before the murder. In the weeks before Kato's killing, Nunnery told authorities that he told Bro Man that, "I had a lick up for somebody that had a lot of jewelry." Bro Man already was planning to rob Kato, according to Nunnery. "When I described the chain that the guy had, he was like, 'Yeah, I know who that is, we was just trying to rob him,'" Nunnery told a prosecutor. Nunnery said his job was to locate Kato, and Bro Man's was to get someone to rob him. Bro Man knew Simmons, and told him he'd pay him up to $30,000 for the job, according to Nunnery. Simmons told detectives that, in May 2003, Bro Man told him about talk of Kato having stolen 150 kilos of cocaine, and hired him to kill Kato. Bro Man told Dunnell about a lick that a Puerto Rican had done for 150 kilos of cocaine, a detective wrote, after interviewing Simmons. Bro Man said, "A Cuba motherfucker, or Mexican wanted dude taken care of." Bro Man asked Dunnell to kill the dude for $10,000 to $30,000. Late that May, where Nunnery and Bro Man picked up Simmons at his West Side home, according to a prosecutor's report. They rode around in the car, and Bro Man was just talking about hitting this lick, or committing the robbery, and Martiz kept adding that "we are going to pay you. We got you," the prosecutor wrote after an interview with Simmons. Nunnery didn't want to just wait to hear from where that Kato had shown up at the barbershop. So, he started looking for Kato himself, around Fullerton and Clybourne, near a recording studio Kato had. A few days after Nunnery, where, and Bro Man had picked up Simmons, Simmons later told the prosecutor he was picked up at home again. Where Bro Man and a third man were driving around, Simmons said, then Bro Man called Nunnery, and they headed to Roosevelt in California. Dunnell states that, as they rode in the car, he saw Martiz on the sidewalk shaking the dude's hand. Dunnell states that Bro Man said, "That's him right there," pointing to the dude on the sidewalk shaking Martiz's hand. Dunnell states that the dude was Kato, now known as Rudy Rangel, and this dude is the guy Bro Man was telling Dunnell to shoot at, the prosecutor wrote. Dunnell states that Bro Man told Dunnell that he wanted Dunnell to pop him. Dunnell states that pop him meant to kill him, and him was the dude they call Kato. Simmons had been paroled just months before. In a deal with prosecutors, he'd pleaded guilty to aggravated discharge of a firearm, was sentenced to 4 years in prison in May 2002, and paroled from the Vandalia Correctional Center on February 26, 2003. On June 4, 2003, Nunnery was at work at a cell phone store when he got the call from where he'd been waiting for. Kato was at the barbershop. He told authorities Bro Man picked him up and they called Simmons to let him know they were coming to get him. Simmons was walking to a liquor store at Madison and Keeler when he saw Nunnery driving a red Ford Taurus with Bro Man in back and another man in the front. He got in next to Bro Man. Outside the barbershop, they saw Kato's blue SUV, drove a block west and turned, parking just north of the alley, according to what Nunnery and Simmons told authorities. Dunnell states that Bro Man handed the gun to Dunnell. Dunnell states that, as Bro Man handed the gun to him, Bro Man told Dunnell, "Don't miss. Come back. We'll be right here waiting for you. Man shorty, don't miss him," Nunnery said. Simmons took the gun and got out.
Praying for all my friends, things I do for my friends. We miss you, hey,
Kato was headed somewhere else that day when he called a friend from prison, who told him he was at Nationwide for a haircut. Kato decided to join him. He was there only a few minutes when Simmons, who didn't know about Kato's 23-year-old bodyguard, or his 5-shot revolver, came out of the alley. About a minute after Simmons got out of the car, Bro Man, Nunnery, and the third man heard gunshots. So did 2 Cook County Sheriff's officers on patrol in an unmarked squad car at Roosevelt and Sacramento, who reported the gunfire to the Chicago police. Kato fell, and Simmons said he kept firing, also hitting the barber in the right foot, and the bodyguard in his left hand. Dunnell said No words were exchanged, he just began firing the pistol at, "Dude," a detective wrote after questioning Simmons. Simmons ran with the bodyguard in pursuit, and the sheriff's officers now less than a block away. The bodyguard told detectives he shot at Simmons but missed, then dumped his gun in a bucket of soapy water at a car wash next to the barbershop before going back to Kato. A sheriff's officer chased, but lost Simmons. As he ran, Simmons' Nets cap fell off. It landed on the sidewalk near Kato's SUV. Inside the trailer, Kato was face down, blood pooling around him, 2 gunshots to the back of his neck that left stippling residue, indicating he'd been shot up close. He also was hit in his left shoulder, the left side of his chest, his left abdomen, and left hip, according to the Cook County Medical Examiner's office, which noted Kato still had on his pricey watch and bracelet. Detectives found the necklace and pendant on the stairs to the barbershop. As soon as the men in the car waiting outside the barbershop heard gunfire, Bro Man began shouting, "Get me out of this car," a detective wrote after interviewing Nunnery. Bro Man was paralyzed in 1998 when a bullet struck his spine, so he ruthlessly commanded his gang from a wheelchair. Nunnery said, he carried Bro Man to the porch of a nearby home, saw a car heading north on Whipple, recognized the driver, and flagged him down. He said the man drove them 3 blocks to a Hollywood video, where Nunnery called his girlfriend, who picked them up. Nunnery said Bro Man called that night saying he hadn't heard from Simmons, and was wondering what happened inside the barbershop. Nunnery told him, people were telling him that a guy was dead.
Well, we don't believe you. You need more people.
Marcus Ware said, he heard on the street that Kato had ripped some Mexicans off for some dope, and that they paid someone to kill him. Ware states that, he knew that, the way Kato was killed, that it was not just a robbery, a detective wrote. Bro Man already was under scrutiny by the Chicago Police Department. An informant, friendly with Bro Man, wore a wire for investigators targeting him and his crew. So, don't forget to ring that notification bell button because we're going to reveal the transcripts from the wiretaps of that investigation in a future video. The investigation, dubbed Operation 5K for 5th Avenue and Karlov, where Bro Man lived, led to dozens of murder convictions. Detectives investigating Kato's death learned of an informant being used by the police department's organized crime division, who'd recorded conversations with Martise Nunnery, in which he implicated himself in the shooting. The transcripts between Nunnery and the informant were made 7 weeks after the shooting. In that conversation, Nunnery talks about paying a subject named Squeaky $13,000 for doing something, but got cheated, detectives wrote. Nunnery goes on to say that it was Squeaky, Bro Man, and himself in the car, but only Squeaky got out and did it. Like anyone expected Bro Man to jump out the whip and run up on a nigga busting shots, but I digress. Nunnery says that the police were right there when this happened. If you haven't already guessed, then you're not paying attention. The Cartoon News Network will bring you transcripts from this conversation coming soon, but it would be more than 5 months before arrests were made in the murder of Kato. Marcus Ware and Martise Nunnery were brought in on November 14, 2003, and dumbass Donnell Simmons was arrested 8 days later, initially in a separate incident. Bro Man already was in the Cook County Jail on an unrelated armed robbery charge when detectives wanted to talk with him and the others about Kato. All 4 idiots agreed to speak with detectives and prosecutors without lawyers present. At the start of his interview, Mr. Simmons denied any involvement in the incident, but did state that he had read about it in the newspapers, and inquired as to whether or not the newspapers were accurate in saying that offenders had been arrested, and had confessed, detectives wrote. Detectives told Simmons they were matching evidence to those involved, and had DNA. Mr. Simmons immediately stated that he would willingly submit a DNA test, detectives wrote. What a fucking idiot. They told Simmons they wanted to compare his DNA with hair recovered from a New Jersey Nets cap found on the sidewalk outside the barbershop. Mr. Simmons then stated that he would talk to Detective O'Donovan about this incident, but asked that he be given a cigarette and water first, detectives wrote. Again, what a fucking idiot. If you're going to snitch on yourself, plead not guilty, and, of course, still spend decades in prison, at least, negotiate for an Italian beef and Pepsi. Marcus Ware made a deal, pleading guilty to conspiracy to commit armed robbery, testifying against dumbass, Donnell Simmons, and getting an 11-year sentence. The state's attorney's office dropped the murder, attempted murder, aggravated battery, and conspiracy to commit murder charges. In October 2008, dumbass, Donnell Simmons, was convicted of murder, aggravated battery with a firearm, and conspiracy to commit murder. His dumbass got 53 years in prison. Lamar, bro man Spann, turned down a plea deal, and in 2008, Cook County Judge James Schreier found him not guilty. In 2009, bro man pleaded guilty to the armed robbery he was already in jail for. He got 6 years in prison, but was credited with 5 years and 10 months of time served. While incarcerated, bro man was charged with bringing drugs into a penal institution and harassing a witness, which added time to his armed robbery sentence, though he also was credited with more than 700 days of time served in jail. Martise Nunnery was convicted of murder and given 36 years in prison. Before Nunnery was sentenced, Kato's mother, Mary Rangel, gave a victim's impact statement. "I am not here saying my son was an angel, or that I am one of the mothers that act like he never did wrong, but whatever he did not deserve to die like that," she said.